Is there someone in your life who makes you question your own sanity? Someone who's way too charming at first, but something always feels off? Today, we're going to reveal the 5 signs you might be ignoring, signs that could be putting your emotional life in danger. As renowned Brazilian psychiatrist Dr. Ana Beatriz Barbosa Silva, author of the bestseller Dangerous Minds, once said, "We could say that a psychopath is someone who knows the lyrics to the song but doesn't feel the melody." Ana Beatriz Barbosa Silva, pensador. And it's exactly this ability to mimic emotions without actually feeling them that makes these individuals so dangerous in relationships. They can have multiple faces. Disguised as good people, they hide what they really are, calculating, manipulative beings who are insensitive to others' feelings. Mentes perigosas. Dr. Ana Beatriz Barbosa Silva. In the next few minutes, you'll discover signs that 99% of people don't notice, techniques used by FBI investigators to identify this behavior, and most importantly, how to protect yourself. If this content could save you or someone you love from a devastating situation, hit that like button and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any content about human behavior that could transform your life. But be warned, some of these revelations might be disturbing. Shall we begin?
Chapter 1. The Charm That Blinds.
Picture this. You're scrolling through a dating app at 11 p.m. on a Tuesday. Work was brutal, your boss was impossible, and you're just looking for a distraction. Then you see that profile. The photos are perfect, not too perfect, just effortlessly attractive. The bio is witty, but not trying too hard. And when they message you first, it's like they read your mind. They reference that obscure movie you mentioned loving. They ask about your day in a way that feels genuinely caring. Within hours, you're texting like you've known each other for years. Within days, they're saying things like, "I've never felt this connection with anyone, and you're exactly what I've been looking for my whole life." Sounds familiar? Here's what happened to Sarah, a 28-year-old marketing executive from Seattle. She met David on Hinge. Within 2 weeks, he was sending her good morning texts that felt like poetry, surprising her with her favorite coffee at work, and planning weekend getaways to places she'd mentioned wanting to visit. It felt like a fairy tale, Sarah later told her therapist. Like someone had finally seen me, really seen me. But here's the terrifying part, and this is where Dr. Ana Beatriz Barbosa Silva's research becomes crucial. The renowned psychiatrist explains that this isn't love at first sight. This is what she calls the predator's perfect performance. According to Dr. Silva's findings, genuine emotional connections develop gradually. They have ups and downs, moments of awkwardness, natural pauses in conversation. But a psychopath, they study you like a script. They mirror your interests, your speech patterns, even your values, not because they share them, but because they're hunting. Think about your last genuine relationship. Remember those early butterflies, the nervous laughter, the way you both stumbled over words sometimes? That's authentic human connection, messy, imperfect, real. Now think about someone who seemed to have all the right answers from day one, who never seemed nervous, never had an off day, never said the wrong thing. Someone who felt too good to be true. Dr. Silva warns us, when someone appears to be your perfect match immediately, question why. Real love grows. Performed love overwhelms. The scariest part? In our modern world of instant gratification, swipe right, same-day delivery, binge-watching entire seasons, we've been conditioned to expect intensity immediately. We mistake emotional overwhelm for deep connection. Sarah's story didn't end with weekend getaways and poetry texts, but we'll get to that later. For now, ask yourself, is there someone in your life who seemed to know exactly what you needed to hear from the very beginning? Someone who made you feel like you'd won the relationship lottery? Because what you thought was luck might have been something much more calculated. And if you think that's disturbing, wait until you hear about the memory pattern that reveals their true nature. That's coming up next.
Chapter 2, The Memory Trap.
Let me ask you something that might chill you to the bone. Have you ever noticed how someone can forget your birthday, your favorite restaurant, or that important presentation you mentioned, but they remember exactly what you said during that argument 3 months ago, word for word? This isn't just selective hearing. This is something far more sinister. Meet Jessica, a 32-year-old nurse from Denver. She's been dating Marcus for 8 months now. Last week, she was telling her best friend about something that's been bothering her, something she couldn't quite put her finger on. "He forgot my mom's surgery date," Jessica said, stirring her latte nervously. "I mentioned it like 15 times, right? But then yesterday, he quoted something I said when I was stressed about work, from February, like the exact words I used when I was frustrated about my coworker." Her friend laughed it off. Maybe he's just bad with dates but good with drama. But Jessica's gut was telling her something different, and her gut was right. Dr. Beatriz Barbosa Silva's research reveals something terrifying about psychopathic memory patterns. In her clinical observations, she notes they have an uncanny ability to store information that can be weaponized later while conveniently forgetting details that would require genuine care or empathy. Think about it. When you love someone, what do you remember? Their coffee order? Their favorite song? The way their eyes light up when they talk about their dreams? You remember these things because they matter to you, because that person's happiness is connected to your own emotional well-being. But a psychopath's brain works differently. Their memory is tactical, not emotional. They remember your insecurities, because insecurities can be exploited. They remember your mistakes, because mistakes can be used for manipulation. They remember your weaknesses, because weaknesses are entry points for control. But your promotion at work, the anniversary of your grandmother's death, your fear of flying that you need support for, these memories serve no strategic purpose, so they're discarded like yesterday's newspaper. Jessica started keeping a journal after that conversation with her friend. What she discovered over the next month made her blood run cold. Marcus remembered perfectly. Every time she doubted herself at work, the argument she'd had with her sister 2 years ago, her confession about feeling insecure about her body, the panic attack she'd had in college, but he consistently forgot her lactose intolerance when ordering dinner, her anxiety about flying before their planned vacation, the death anniversary of her father, her promotion celebration she'd been excited about for weeks. Dr. Silva explains this phenomenon. Their memory is like a predator's hunting tool, sharp and precise for what serves them, completely absent for what would require genuine human connection. Here's what's most disturbing. In our digital age, this selective memory has become easier to disguise. We screenshot conversations. We have calendar reminders. We can Google anniversary dates. So when they suddenly remember something important, we think, oh, they must have made an effort to remember. But the pattern is still there. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. Jessica's journal revealed something that made her hands shake as she wrote it down. But that revelation and what she did with it, that's a story for later. Right now, I want you to think about someone in your life. Do they remember the ammunition but forget the affection? Do they recall your vulnerabilities with crystal clarity but somehow miss your victories? Because if they do, you're not dealing with a bad memory. You're dealing with a strategic one. And if you think selective memory is frightening, wait until you discover the personality switch that happens
when the cameras stop rolling. That's coming up next.
Chapter 3. The Jekyll and Hyde Switch.
Have you ever been in a restaurant with someone who was absolutely charming to the waiter, cracking jokes, asking about their day, leaving a generous tip, only to turn to you the moment you're alone and become cold, critical, or dismissive? You probably thought, maybe they're just tired, or they're more comfortable being themselves with me. You were wrong, dead wrong. Let me tell you about Rachel's Uber ride. It was 2 a.m. on a Saturday night in Chicago. She and her boyfriend Tyler had just left the house party, one where Tyler had been the absolute life of the gathering. He was telling stories that had everyone in stitches, complimenting the host's music taste, even helping clean up spilled drinks without being asked. Your boyfriend is amazing, 3 different people told Rachel that night. You're so lucky. But as they slid into the back seat of their Uber, something shifted. The moment, and I mean the exact moment, the driver started the trip and focused on the road, Tyler's face changed. Gone was the warm smile. Gone was the animated conversation. In its place was something empty, cold. He pulled out his phone and began scrolling in complete silence, ignoring Rachel's attempts to talk about the fun night they just had. Tyler? She whispered, confused by the sudden shift. What? His tone was flat, annoyed, like he'd interrupted something important. This from the same man who, 15 minutes earlier, had been lovingly introducing her to strangers as the most incredible woman I've ever met. Dr. Beatriz Barbosa Silva identifies this phenomenon as one of the most telling signs of psychopathic behavior. She explains, the mask slips when they believe they're no longer being observed or judged. Public charm and private coldness reveal the calculated nature of their emotional performance. Here's what makes this so insidious in 2024. We're constantly performing. Instagram stories, LinkedIn posts, TikTok videos, we're all putting our best foot forward online. So when someone has 2 different personalities, we normalize it. Everyone has a public face and a private face, we tell ourselves. But there's a difference between being more reserved in private and becoming an entirely different person. Normal people might be more outgoing at parties and quieter at home, but their core kindness, their fundamental respect for you remains consistent. They don't flip a switch. They don't become unrecognizable. Rachel started paying attention after that Uber ride. What she discovered made her stomach turn. At Tyler's coworker's birthday dinner, charming, funny, thoughtful, even helped the birthday girl's elderly mother to her seat. In the car afterward, that woman talks too much. Her mother was so annoying. Can we just go home? At Rachel's family barbecue, engaged with her teenage nephew about video games, complimented her mother's cooking, offered to help with dishes. Later that evening, alone with Rachel, your nephew's kind of weird, isn't he? And your mom was really pushing the food thing. I felt suffocated. Dr. Silva's research reveals something chilling. The more dramatic the personality shift between public and private settings, the more calculated the public persona becomes. Genuine people have variations in energy and mood, but their core character remains stable. Think about this in our modern context. We live in the age of performance. We have Ring doorbells recording our porch interactions, security cameras in apartment lobbies, and phones that could be recording at any moment. We've created a world where psychopaths have to maintain their mask longer than ever before. But the mask always slips eventually. When they think no one is watching, when they think no one will believe you, when it's just you and them, and they can finally stop performing. Rachel began to dread being alone with Tyler. The man who was everyone's favorite person in public became cold, controlling, and critical the moment they had privacy. She felt like she was dating two completely different people. But which one was real? The answer to that question and what Rachel discovered when she dug deeper revealed something that saved her life, literally. But that's a story for later. Right now, I need you to think. Is there someone in your life who becomes a different person when the audience disappears? Someone whose warmth evaporates the moment you're alone together? Because if there is, you're not seeing their private side. You're seeing their real side. And if you think personality switches are terrifying, wait until you hear about the lies that serve no purpose except to test your reality. That's coming up next.
Chapter 4. The Lies That Serve No Purpose. What would you say if I told you that the most dangerous lies aren't the big ones? They're the small, seemingly pointless ones that make absolutely no sense to tell. Let me paint a picture that might make your skin crawl. It's a Tuesday morning in Portland. Emma is having coffee with her boyfriend Jake before work. She mentioned she's craving sushi for lunch, and Jake casually says, "Oh, I had sushi yesterday with my coworker Mike, this new place downtown. Amazing salmon rolls." Sounds normal, right? Except Emma knows something Jake doesn't think she knows. Mike was out of town yesterday. She saw his Instagram stories from his business trip to Dallas. She even liked one of his airport photos. So why did Jake lie about something so trivial? Why create a fictional sushi lunch that serves no purpose? Emma brushed it off at first. Maybe he mixed up the days, she thought. Maybe it was Monday, not Tuesday. But then it happened again, and again, and again. Jake said he went to the gym when she could see from his Apple Watch data that he'd been sedentary all day. He claimed he'd called his mom when his phone log showed no such call. He mentioned watching a Netflix show that hadn't even been released yet. None of these lies protected him from anything. None of them gained him anything. They were lies for the sake of lying. Dr. Beatriz Barbosa Silva has identified this as one of the most chilling characteristics of psychopathic behavior. She notes, pathological lying isn't just about covering up misdeeds. It's about maintaining control over reality itself. They lie to keep their manipulative skills sharp, to test your gullibility, and to establish dominance over truth. Here's what makes this particularly terrifying in our digital age. We have more ways than ever to verify information. GPS tracking, social media posts, digital receipts, read receipts on messages. We live in a world where lies should be easier to catch. But that's exactly why these small, senseless lies are so insidious. When someone lies about easily verifiable things, they're sending you a message. I can reshape reality, and you'll go along with it because you want this relationship to work. It's gaslighting in its purest form. Emma's friend Sarah noticed something chilling when Emma shared her notes app. "Em," she said, her voice barely a whisper, "he's not lying to you about these things because he's forgetful or confused. He's lying to see if you'll call him out. He's testing how much nonsense you'll accept." And the most disturbing part? Emma realized she'd stopped questioning him months ago. She'd trained herself to ignore the contradictions, to make excuses for impossibilities, to accept his version of events even when her eyes told her otherwise. She'd let him reprogram her relationship with truth itself. But Emma's story takes a turn that will shock you, because what she discovered when she finally confronted him about these lies revealed something about psychopathic behavior that even researchers are still trying to understand. That confrontation and what happened next changed
everything Emma thought she knew about the man she'd been planning to move in with. Right now, though, I want you to ask yourself, is there someone in your life who lies about things that don't matter? Someone who tells stories that don't quite add up, even when the truth would be perfectly fine? Because if there is, they're not just being dishonest. They're conducting an experiment, and you're the test subject. And if you think pathological lying is disturbing, wait until you hear about the rage that appears out of nowhere and disappears just as quickly. That's our final revelation, and it's the one that ties everything together in the most terrifying way.
Chapter 5. The Rage That Reveals Everything. What I'm about to tell you might be the most important thing you hear today, because this final sign doesn't just reveal a psychopath, it predicts danger. Picture this. It's a quiet Sunday evening in Austin, Texas. Lisa is making dinner while her boyfriend Connor plays video games in the living room. She accidentally drops a plate. Nothing expensive, just a regular dinner plate from Target. It shatters on the kitchen floor. What happened next changed Lisa's life forever. Connor didn't just get annoyed. He didn't just raise his voice. Something snapped. His face contorted into something Lisa had never seen before. Pure, animalistic rage. He screamed at her for being clumsy and stupid, threw his controller across the room, and punched the wall so hard he put a hole through the drywall. The entire outburst lasted maybe 90 seconds. Then, as suddenly as it had started, it stopped. Connor looked at the hole in the wall, looked at Lisa's terrified face, and said, "I'm sorry, babe. I don't know where that came from. Work has been really stressful lately." And just like that, he was back to normal. Calm, rational, almost confused by his own behavior. But Lisa wasn't confused. Lisa was terrified, because she realized that this wasn't the first time. There had been other moments, smaller ones she'd rationalized away. Road rage that seemed disproportionate to someone cutting him off in traffic. Fury at a barista who got his coffee order wrong. An explosion of anger when his favorite restaurant was closed. Violent outbursts at video games that made her uncomfortable. Beatriz Barbosa Silva identifies this pattern as perhaps the most dangerous characteristic of psychopathic behavior. She warns, the inability to regulate emotional responses, combined with the complete lack of genuine remorse, creates a powder keg that can explode without warning or appropriate provocation. Here's what makes this particularly chilling in our modern world. We've normalized anger. We live in the age of viral road rage videos, Twitter storms, and Karen compilations. We've become desensitized to disproportionate reactions. But there's a difference between someone having a bad day and someone whose anger reveals the absence of emotional regulation entirely. Normal people get angry. Normal people sometimes overreact. But normal people also show genuine remorse afterward. They're genuinely disturbed by their own behavior. They seek to understand why they reacted that way and work to prevent it from happening again. A psychopath? They apologize because they know it's expected. They express confusion because it deflects responsibility. But they don't actually feel bad about terrifying you. They feel bad about getting caught showing their true nature. Lisa started paying attention to Connor's anger patterns. What she discovered made her blood run cold. The anger always targeted someone who couldn't fight back. Wait staff, customer service representatives, people in vulnerable positions. Never his boss, never his friends, never anyone who could impact his reputation or career. The anger was always followed by immediate charm. I'm usually not like this. You bring out the best in me. I've never felt this comfortable with anyone. And most disturbing of all,
The anger triggers were getting smaller. A dropped plate today, a traffic light tomorrow. Eventually, just her breathing too loudly might set him off. Dr. Silva's research reveals something terrifying. Progressive anger escalation in psychopaths isn't random. It's testing boundaries. Each explosion that goes without consequences teaches them they can go further next time. Think about this. We carry smartphones that can call 911 instantly. We have Ring doorbells that record altercations. We live in the most connected, documented era in human history. And yet, intimate partner violence is still rising. Because the rage happens behind closed doors. Because they're careful about who witnesses it. Because they know exactly how far they can push before you'll actually leave. Lisa's story reached its breaking point 3 weeks after the plate incident. Connor had seemed perfectly normal all day. They'd gone to brunch with friends, he'd been charming and funny and kind. But when they got home, Lisa made a simple comment about maybe watching a different Netflix show than the one he'd picked. What happened next lasted 4 minutes. 4 minutes of screaming, throwing objects, and threats that made Lisa genuinely fear for her safety. Then, as always, it stopped. Connor surveyed the destruction: broken picture frames, scattered books, a lamp knocked over, and said the words that still give Lisa nightmares. "Look what you made me do." Not, "I'm sorry." Not, "I don't know what came over me." "Look what you made me do." That's when Lisa realized she wasn't dealing with anger management issues. She wasn't dealing with stress or work pressure or childhood trauma. She was dealing with someone who saw her as responsible for his violence toward her. Dr. Silva explains this terrifying mindset. The psychopath's rage serves a dual purpose. It releases their frustration and establishes dominance. But the lack of genuine remorse afterward reveals their fundamental inability to see others as deserving of basic human respect. Lisa called her sister that night. She made a safety plan, and 2 days later, while Connor was at work, she left. But here's what she learned later that still makes her wake up in cold sweats. Connor had done this before. 3 previous relationships that ended the same way. Each ex-girlfriend had the same stories: the charm, the memory gains, the personality switches, the pointless lies, and always the explosions of rage followed by calculated calm. One of his exes told Lisa something that haunts her. "I used to think the anger was the worst part, but it wasn't. The worst part was how quickly he could turn it off, because that's when I realized it was all under his control. He chose when to terrify me." Now, here's what I need you to understand. If you recognize even 3 of these 5 signs in someone you're dating, you're not dealing with someone who has issues or rough edges or trust problems. You're dealing with someone whose brain is fundamentally wired differently. Someone who sees relationships as games to be won and people as objects to be controlled. If this video has opened your eyes to something you've been trying to ignore, please, and I cannot stress this enough, reach out for help. Talk to friends, family, a therapist. Make a safety plan. You deserve love that doesn't come with fear. And if this content could save someone you know, share it. Hit that like button if it was helpful and subscribe, because understanding human behavior could literally save your life or someone else's. The comments below are full of people sharing their own experiences with these red flags. You're not alone, and your story matters. Stay safe out there. And remember, trust your gut. It's trying to protect you.